So the all-new Apple iPad Pro is here. Well, actually, it'll be here soon, right? I actually just pre-ordered one, and you should not order one or pre-order one. You should not do, well, actually, let's talk about whether you should order one. Apple obviously just recently unveiled its newest products, including the new iMac models, the AirTags, and of course the new Apple TV, and the new iPad Pro lineup, the almighty new iPad Pro lineup. So we will be seeing an Apple iPad Pro Mini LED and the updated version of the quote-unquote regular iPad Pro. But anyways, our focus today is going to be on the new iPad Pro, not the iPad Pro Mini LED one, the regular iPad Pro, the 11 inches. And if you remember from last year, the 2020 iPad Pro only brought us kind of a marginal upgrade when compared to that of the previous iteration of iPad Pros. So it's slapping that M1 chip on the new iPad Pro enough to make it kind of this very grandiose thing, making it taking user experience to the next level. We do know that the new Apple M1 chip is out of this world in terms of performance, and all of the things that Apple has slapped that M1 chip on so far have been just monsters. We also do know that the iPad Pro Mini LED is the next level of innovation for Apple, and that is of course in terms of display. But what does that mean exactly to you or for you, the average consumer? Because as you know, on this channel, we are always trying to be practical. Oh, by the way, if this is your first time visiting the channel, welcome, of course. If you do like the content so far, I truly appreciate that. Now, please do me a huge favor. Hit both the like and the subscribe button there. It's a tremendous boost to this channel here. And again, very, very much appreciated. Now, the 11-inch Pro from this year, according to Apple, is boasting the same display specs as that of last year. So if you were to jump on the Apple website right now and do a comparison, you would see that it is essentially the same liquid retina display with ProMotion technology on the new one. And that ProMotion technology obviously is Apple's version of 120 Hertz adaptive refresh rate. It's still the same height, the same weight, the same depth as the one from last year. And oh, by the way, in true Apple fashion, there's a rumor that despite being the same height, the same weight, and the same depth, the Magic Keyboard from last year might not fit, or it might not be compatible with the new iPad, or vice versa. There's something going on with the sizes where you can't use one with the one. Either you can use the one from last year with the one from this year, but you can't use the keyboard, the Magic Keyboard from this year with the, it's a whole thing, but I digress. And if that turns out to be true, that is kind of crazy, because if last year you dropped $350 on the Magic Keyboard, and all of a sudden you want to grab one of the new iPad Pros, then you have to drop an additional $350. I don't know. We'll get to see once we test that out. Anyways, you will find the same PPI and resolution, even the same 600 nits on either one of these two iPad Pros. Again, meaning this year's 11-inch and last year's 11-inch. They even both offer the same 10 hours of surfing time, so pretty much the same battery. And then you have some very insignificant differences on the main camera, so virtually the same. However, there are some major differences on the front-facing camera. So the bulk from this year's 11-inch iPad Pro is essentially coming from the 11-inch iPad Pro from last year. Now let's talk about some of the major differences worth noting here, which include, of course, the fact that you can pick up a 2 terabyte storage iPad Pro with this new version, not available on last year's version. The Thunderbolt ports with fast transfer speed, 5G capability, and you're also looking at an updated 8 gigs of RAM versus 6 gigs of RAM that you were getting on the previous one. And I believe you can actually double that depending on the storage variant that you go for. And the biggest difference of all, and this is huge, it's the processing power. Now, I'm sure that even before this video, you had already heard of the new Apple Silicon chip, which actually differentiates this year's iPad Pro 11-inch from last year. That chipset is magical. It's the next generation Neural Engine M1 chip that Apple recently launched on its new devices, including the new iMacs. I have a Mac Mini. I also M1 Mac Mini, and I also have an M1 MacBook Air, and those things, you know, performance is flawless. Not even like nothing that I've used in the past as far as computer goes comes even close to what these things are offering me. We have known the iPad Pro to always rely on its 8-core graphics to push up some of the best tablet performance in terms of high quality video editing. This iPad is said, according to Apple, to deliver 50% faster CPU, and that is pretty wild. But you know what though? All this fancy talk of the M1 chip and all that stuff is taking us away from the meat of this video. The question remains, should you, as the average consumer, upgrade your current iPad Pro or even your 2018 iPad Pro to the new iPad Pro, the new 11-inch? My humble opinion, that's a big no. There are, however, some people who may actually tap into that superpower that is supposed to be offered by this new iPad Pro. You see, there actually used to be a time when people who bought Pro machines actually did so with a purpose. Nowadays, many average consumers actually buy the iPad Pro, right? And I can tell you that a good chunk of them don't even come close to using half the power of what an iPad Pro can actually do. Now, don't get me wrong, some people actually use the iPad Pro to the fullest, especially people who do a lot of editing, right? So people in the creative space, I know tons of, you know, tech creators who use the crap out of their iPad Pros. Those people I could definitely see going after the new lineup or the new iPad Pro here. But for most people, like I have family members who own iPad Pros, and I know all they use their iPads for is to watch movies, and, you know, even students. Many of them also buy the iPad Pro, but they don't even come close to using the iPad Pro to its full capabilities. Again, with the better CPU performance and an even faster storage on this new iPad Pro, it offers even more power than most professionals would need. So if you are on a quest for more power, this thing might just be the one for you to pick up. Otherwise, I would just say it's a big fat no. And before we go ahead and close up this video, I want to top off with something, because I do get quite a few questions from students, you know, whether medical student or, you know, engineering student. Quite a few students always ask, you know, should I either buy the iPad Pro or should I upgrade, you know, the iPad Pro to the iPad Pro, upgrade from my iPad Pro? To those people, I say no. And to those who are contemplating buying this iPad Pro, and I'm talking specifically to students, right? So those who are considering buying this thing, and I'm going to say the same thing I say almost every time when I talk about the iPad Pro. Consider the total amount of money that you're going to spend on this tablet or on this device, right? So $800, that's going to get you the base storage. You could spend $900 and pick up an M1 MacBook Air. But if you pick up an iPad Pro and you need to pick up the smart keyboard, where does that take you? That takes you over that $1,000, like actually pretty close to what you'll be paying for the MacBook Pro, which is a powerful machine. So might as well just get the MacBook Pro, right? But anyway, so let's go ahead and keep this simple. If you get an M1 MacBook Air, that should do everything that you need and more. You know, some people might think, well, what about portability? The MacBook Air is super light and portable. But then again, the iPad Pro is very focused. You know, you have some people who get that for a specific reason. I hope I didn't turn into an old man here trying to give you financial advice, but I hope this was informative. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for sticking with me up until this moment here. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe if you haven't done so. Please make sure to subscribe. I'm going to catch you in the comment section. I always do that, and I'm also going to catch you in the next video. And up until then, of course, as always, stay safe out there.